All right, good evening, guys. Welcome to this live stream. This is a Sunday live stream. I've not done one of these in a while. I've done some midweek ones. But yeah, so welcome. Please let me know in the comments whether you can hear me loud and clear. I know that there are a couple of questions in here already. I appreciate you for being here, as always. 9:30 on a Sunday is always a bit of a commitment either way. So yeah, let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. I will shortly be bringing on Stephen. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Delight. Appreciate it. Adrian, welcome. Leo, Justin, Duke, how you doing? All right, there's a good number of you. Kiki, how are you? All right, okay, right. So let's talk about what we're doing here today. So if you followed me, it was Tuesday, we did a video on Amazon FBA. The reason why we did video on Amazon FBA was because I often get asked the question, side hustles, what are the best side hustles that you essentially have? And this channel started last year in the midst of a pandemic. So whilst I talk about investing a lot, I'm also very, very aware that in order for you to be in a position where you can invest, certain things need to happen. And yes, we can talk about all of the financial fundamentals around budgeting, but really you need to have spare income in order to really invest in the stock market. And I was really conscious all the way through last year that whilst many people were taking pay cuts due to furlough and losing jobs, so on and so forth, not everybody had the ability to invest. And one of the key things I wanted to do was provide a bit of content that would help you guys either look at side hustles, because one thing that furlough has definitely taught us and COVID has definitely taught us is we cannot rely on one source of income. So side hustles are great for that. And hopefully if you get a side hustle that can churn out some income for you, you can then take that money and start to invest in either the stock market or property or whatever it is that you want to do moving forward. So this is part of my kind of like passion project almost. I wanted to be able to add additional value to you. So this is very much the first of that, really, to be honest. And the guys, Stephen and the guys at Marketplace Superhero reached out to me back end of last year. So this has been a few months in the making now. So this live Q&A is going to be dedicated to Amazon FBA specifically. So Stephen is pretty much the expert. He's the guru. He's been here. He's done that. He's got the t-shirt and everything else that goes along with it. I'm going to bring him in very, very shortly. He's taken the time out this evening to answer questions from you guys. So I know there are a couple of questions in here already. I'm just going to get him to introduce himself, so on and so forth. But yes, I'm going to bring Stephen in right now. Stephen, thank you for being here.
It's a real pleasure, Pete. You're doing an amazing job with your channel, growing unbelievably well. And what a pleasure it is for me to be chatting to you. We had such a great chat a while back. It's just an honor to be here chatting to everybody.
No, it's good. Like I said, you know, we recorded the podcast. I think it was maybe December or something like that.
Yeah, it was well back now.
Yeah, back in December. So, and I wanted to do something where we could kind of have like a sequence of things. So obviously the podcast on Monday, the video on Tuesday, and then culminating in this one, just to give people who are interested in Amazon or who have looked at Amazon FBA as an option for them in the future. Because I know that from our conversations, it is quite a complex sort of area to go in. It's quite saturated as well.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, which we'll get into at the minute. But first and foremost, just for people who haven't seen the video on Tuesday, and I think most people will have, can you just give an overview to introduction to you? Because you have been there, you have done it, and you have got the t-shirt, so to speak.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So yeah, my name is Stephen Summers, and I am the co-founder of Marketplace Superheroes. We teach people all over the world, people from the UK, people from the US, and all places you can imagine, how to sell their own branded products globally on Amazon. And we don't just teach it, you know, we actually do it. We've got a number of partners as well who we invest in actively, as well as doing it ourselves. But also we actually run a freight company called Superhero Freight. And that's one of the key things which we can chat about this evening. The key differences with how we do things. We actually import our members' products, our own products from China, from the Far East. I can say the Far East here because everyone understands what I'm talking about. In the US, when I say the Far East, they say, where? What are you talking about? Which is kind of funny. But, you know, we actually import everybody's products with them. We save them a ton of money on that. We run all the warehousing in the US, the UK, Australia, Canada. So we put a lot of money into that. And now we've over 8,000 students in our program. We've got hundreds of people who have started with Amazon with ourselves, learned, got their products launched, and tons of video case studies on our YouTube channel. Real people, their stories, starting from absolute scratch and building up their business. And I think as well, Pete, like one of the big things about us is, we're not the Lambo guys. Like that's not what we're about at all. We're like yourself. We're very big on education. And a lot of people ask him, well, why do you educate people, right? Is it just to make money selling courses or whatever? And I always say, look, if it was all about selling courses, we'd have retired long ago, because, really that business in and of itself is fine, but, it has a lifespan. And obviously we're growing better than ever in marketplace because we went beyond courses, in that we run the freight company, we have services, we have all the things that you need in order to be successful. And so I think now in this space we've become known as the most trusted source of information, education, but also, just to put into perspective for everybody watching or listening, last year in 2020 we shipped 2 million individual units with our freight company. This year we're on track to ship about 8 million.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Big jump.
What's the difference?
Yeah, so it's been a few. One of the things weirdly has been COVID. Has definitely impacted. I think as well though, we've added in Australia, our Canadian warehouse. We didn't have that much of it last year as well, so that's really jumped it up as well. But COVID's had a bit of an impact, I think, from the perspective of people kind of going to, like, I'm actually going to go and do this now. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I got furloughed or whatever, and I really want to actually build my own income stream now. I'm serious now. There's a bit of that, but also a little bit of like people reordering their products and growing with us as well. So I think it's been like a combination of factors have come together, and finally, I think too, Pete, the amount of case studies we record, we're not actually asking our members. They come to us and say, look, I'd love to come on and talk and share my story, which is great. Like, I mean, we're really honored to get those stories. So I think between it all, the reason we do it now anyway, for everybody listening, is number one, we do enjoy it. We love seeing people succeed. Absolutely. But also, it's a great partnership for us. We teach people how to be successful on Amazon. They then use our shipping services, our translation services, all those things that we've put together. And it's a great partnership. We don't take any equity in their companies if we're partnered in that way. So that's where we're at. I think our communities are going to do about a little bit over $200 million, so maybe 150 million pounds revenue this year. That is revenue, but we always work on about a 25 to 30% profit margin. So essentially, you can take $200 million and multiply it by 0.3. That's going to give you your net profit before tax of the overall community. So we really try to be as transparent as we can, just like yourself. That's why I love what you do so much. You're really looking to educate and give people the options, and it's the same. So like, I'm here to answer any questions. I see there's some coming in which I can deal with. I can do whatever you want, Pete. It's your crew, but however we can help them.
Yeah, I was going to say that like with Amazon, and I do have a question I'm going to start with, because there was a comment on the video that I thought we could start off with this, because I think it was someone who had a little bit of experience with Amazon. He had a view, so I'll open up with that one first and foremost. Sure. But I think one of the reasons why I was quite interested to speak with you was because, like you said, you don't go along the lines of this is Lambo opportunity type thing. And that's the kind of stuff that I hate on YouTube. It's completely unnecessary.
I know.
You're very much about the fact that it is possible, but it's going to take hard work. It's going to take time. It's going to take dedication to actually do that. And I think that's the really important piece.
And money. Money's the big one. It's going to take capital. It is.
Absolutely. Cool. Right. So the comment that was on the video, and I think this is a really, really good way to kind of set this up as the first question was, so I'm going to try and paraphrase and pull some of this out. So he was saying this person has had experience of this over the last few years or so, and he goes, he felt that it would be a really good place to start 5 to 7 years ago, as you could literally be rich. He goes, but there are a few things that he thinks he could be concerned about. So number one, Chinese companies give free products to reviews to boost their rankings in the results, making it very hard for you to appear. Then he says the second one is suppliers also undercut you and list the same product on a regular basis. Then 3, you end up in a vicious cycle having to spend PPC ads to try and get your product listed. What's your experience of that from someone who's actually within that space, actually working?
I love the question. And again, I would say if you go to YouTube and you look at what most people teach, you're going to run into those problems, you know, and I'll explain why it's different with ourselves, no problem. First of all, let me start with the mentality of most people when it comes to Amazon, right? This person said, and I think it's a great, you know, that's a great point of view. You know, 5 to 6 years ago, I'm doing this 11 years now, but 5 to 6 years ago, like you could have been rich quickly or whatever. And I think that's what they're basically actually saying is that 5 or 6 years ago, from their perspective, there was much less competition. It was much easier to get on, have success a lot more quickly. And I think that with certain product lines, product categories, absolutely, like that, I would agree with that. But really, like the problem with Amazon now is that we have a lot of people educating in the space who haven't moved on from that. They're still recommending you sell like, you know, yoga mats and, you know, things like vegetable spiralizers and you know, all these, you know, dog grooming brushes, right? So they do millions a year, like, and you'll do millions too if you come in there. And we actually call those in Marketplace Superheroes confused markets. Why are they confused? Well, there's way too many people in there. And at one point in time, yeah, like those things, and still today, by the way, the top selling lines in those spaces are legitimately selling thousands, in some cases, tens of thousands a day. But for mere mortals like you and me coming in there, it's going to be very difficult to get in. It's going to be nigh impossible to get in and compete in those areas. We call it confused markets too, because you take a dog grooming brush, for example, so many different types, so many different styles, so many different kind of like niches within niches that people have tried to do in order to get found. For like, even if you take earring backers was another example of a product, right? I did a whole video with that, and the people are like, oh, it's hypoallergenic, so that's what's going to get me found. So like what's happened then is there's these massive niches, and then nowadays people are thinking, well, if I start like sub niching within those big niches, I can be successful. We go the other way completely. We just say we don't want to sell any of those products. We want to sell low competition products that are making 5-10 sales a day. And we want to sell those in multiple countries at the same time, excuse me, and build up the average daily sales for that product in multiple countries. And by the way, most people never sell outside of Amazon.com. They just, it's like the world doesn't exist. But actually, you know, if you take European market and the UK, because obviously the UK is no longer part of the EU, you actually have a market bigger than the US from a population standpoint. So like, there's all these opinions about Amazon, Pete, and a lot of them come from educators on YouTube who've not changed how they do things. And in my opinion, they're actually damaging a lot of people and their potential. So just to clarify what we do, we look at these smaller markets, you know, like, I mean, an example would be a seed box. Again, I'm not saying go sell seed boxes. I'm just trying to give you an example. Like a seed box is never going to appear on, you know, like the 100 hottest products to sell on Amazon, because it's not going to be that hot. Like it's going to make sales. So what happens with our members is we go into these smaller markets and we get them in multiple countries at the same time. And that brings up the cumulative sales of that product daily. And when you look at it, it's kind of like you're saying, well, could I make 5 sales of this product in a country? That's a lot easier than this other way, which this, whoa, my table's gone crazy, which this other person is talking about, which really is saying I need to make hundreds, even thousands of sales of this product every day in order to compete. The PPC comment, the paid advertising comment, I fully agree with that. I think this person is correct in that, yeah, if you go and sell those really overly competitive products, which a lot of people still do, and it upsets me when I hear about it, they come into our community and then they see our research methodology and they're like, wow, this makes a lot more logical sense. I really prefer this. It upsets me because I just know, like, they brought in sometimes a container, 40-foot container, 20-foot container full of products, and it's not going to be the right way for them. On the other hand, with us, we're looking at, well, can we do an order which takes up a small portion of a container? We call it trial order. So again, we're looking for products, and then it's like an onion, this thing, because then people will be like, well, how many units should I order? And I will be like, it depends. What's the cost price? What's the dimensions of the product? It can go on like an investment. It would be like me saying to you, just tell me the best investment to make right now. And it's like, what's your risk profile? Like, what are all these things, right? Yeah. So just to clarify, another point is what we're talking about here is private label selling, where we are putting our own brand onto products and we're selling them. So this does involve us trademarking a brand. It involves us getting barcodes from GS1. They're the global provider of barcodes. And obviously involves a solid research strategy. And we'll do our best to talk about that today. Obviously, there's a lot to get into. We've loads of videos on the channel about that. I can give a quick strategy people can get a feel for what we're talking about. But essentially, we want a small number of products in a small number of countries, small number of sales, cumulative effect, compounds with time. And what you'll find is Ali, one of our top students, he's actually a member of our team now. We've been documenting the growth. He's actually from London. He was a security guard in Heathrow Airport just a few years ago. And we've documented the growth of his channel, of his company, I should say. We've invested in it. We're very clear on that. We brought in 32 products last year to show people what's possible when you invest. And we're investing heavily. We're putting in a few $100,000 into that business over time. But we're showing people where you can get to when you invest at that rate. And then people can obviously step back to the level that's comfortable for them. But that business is on track now this year to do, it's going to do $1 million revenue in I would say, the next calendar year, which is really cool. And we show those numbers. We show when he runs out of stock. We show the whole thing. So anyway, I don't know if that we can talk as long, but like there's a lot in this. But I mean, I hope that gives some kind of context.
Yeah, it does.
To what this person was saying.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. Right. So there's a question up here. The first section I can't get up on the screen, but I will get up in a minute. So the first one says, "What are the criteria used to search for manufacturers on Alibaba?" And then there's a second part as well, which I do have. Which Food Dweller is basically saying, I learned that now manufacturers and retailers in China are flooded on Amazon. Yeah,
so I'm not fully sure what you mean, Food Dweller, but you can certainly feel free to let us know exactly what you mean. I'm assuming you mean there's lots of Chinese suppliers on Amazon now. I'm guessing. And again, there are Chinese suppliers on Amazon for certain products, and also Amazon sells certain products because that's usually the thing. Well, Amazon are going to go and sell my product, and that's just not true. I mean, if you actually look at the numbers, about 63% of Amazon's business now comes from third-party sellers, people like me, people like others, people like Chinese manufacturers who do sell certain products. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. When you're on Amazon, you'll see that. We just find out in the categories that we sell in, a couple of things. Number one, it doesn't really matter. There's a lot of room on Amazon. It's kind of funny. Like I think people, Pete, think like if I search a keyword in Amazon, one product has to come up or something. I used to think that as well. But like you'll see, like when you're researching, the only way you would invest in a product is that there will be multiple people selling different versions of that type of product. If there weren't, you would not bring it in because there's no data at all to back that up. But yeah, there are Chinese sellers, absolutely. But again, in the categories that we sell in, we don't see as many of them. I think if you start looking into yoga products and, skipping ropes for gyms and all these really like super high volume selling type products, you'll see that. What you'll find with a lot of suppliers is, though, they're suppliers. They're not looking to be sellers. Most suppliers you'll find on Alibaba are in that situation. Most as well are very open to you speaking to them and doing business with them because that's what they do. They want to sell more of their products. But at the end of the day, you are private labeling products. So you are bringing in products that people are producing for other companies around the world. I mean, you are. That's just how it is. And you're bringing them in and you're selling them. But again, the key to that comes into branding your product correctly. When you trademark your brand, like I mentioned earlier, you can get what's called brand registry on Amazon. And what that means is you literally register your brand on the platform, and you're given a lot of additional protections that other brands are not given on the Amazon platform. Because you may not know this, but when you put your product on Amazon and you're listing on Amazon specifically, you don't own the listing. Amazon owns the listing because it's their platform. So with brand registry, this is a way to protect yourself. And what you'll find is sometimes some different people, could be sellers, whatever, will try to jump on your listing and say, well, I sell Pete's product. I sell it. And then Pete's saying, well, no, like I've got my own brand on it. I've got my own barcode on it. This is my product. But if you're not brand registered, you can have a tough time getting those people off of your listing. So that's why today in 2021, brand registry is becoming critical. I think it's also important just to give you more data points, because I think data points are really important. If you go to statista.com and you actually search, Amazon, growth of Amazon, you'll see that in the time I started actually teaching this in 2015, but I've been selling on Amazon now for 11 years. But when we started teaching in 2015 to today, 2021, the platform has actually quadrupled in size and a little bit beyond that. So you'll see like it's an upward trajectory of growth on the platform, upward trajectory of growth on their fulfillment costs too, which is important for people like me when we're using FBA, because that tells me that they're obviously shipping out more and more products from their warehouses. So that's a good sign. Also, 1 in every 2 products sold on the internet right now is sold on Amazon. You know, it is a humongous, it's huge. Like, so I think as well, sometimes when we're beginning in these things, we don't quite understand the scale of Amazon. There are millions of products sold on Amazon, millions of different products, not thousands, not like tens of thousands, millions. And that's why as well, with the types of products that we're selling, there's a lot of products that we can sell simply because there are millions of different products out there. And as I mentioned earlier, you're never going to be in a market where you're the only seller ever. And if you are, you would, I don't know how you figured out how to bring that product in, because you would have no data, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. There's another one here. Let's have a look at this. I want to know, how much do I need to get started with you guys, and where exactly do I start?
Yeah. So we did a video just recently actually on how much it costs to get started on Amazon on our YouTube channel, which again, you can definitely check out, but I'll give you more information. So I believe the total amount of money I got to, it wouldn't happen today, but in startup costs and getting your business operational, it was about $3,500 to $5,000. So pounds, been in the UK, £2,000 to like £3 and a bit thousand pounds. Nearly about that. Again, my conversion rates are about right, I think. The rate changes. It's 1.38 now to the pound. It was a lot less than that. And by the way, I remember a time, Pete, when it was $2 to a pound.
Yeah, I remember that. I do remember that. I do remember that time, yeah.
I would say that was like 2015 or something like that. Maybe. It wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, it changes all the time. But the point is, that's around what you're talking about for our program and stuff like that. You know, it depends what way you want to do it. We have a $97 by 12 plan for people who want to pay it off, that type of thing. So that education would be a separate thing. I class it as a separate thing because it's an investment outside of the investments in the business. So that's just to give you that. But I think, again, a lot of people really focus on the cost of starting a business. Very few people focus on, well, what's the gain going to be in actually starting a business? And that's just something that I was the exact same. Well, how much is it going to be to get this going? And we're very like, well, it's going to be 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. And it's almost like, okay, so I need that today then. And it's like, well, not really though, because some of these costs are going to happen at different times in the running of your business. So it's very difficult to be like, well, today you need that, and that's exactly how much you need, because, you know, your trademark, you won't apply for that straight away. You'll do it over a period of time. And also, like in some cases, you might decide, I'm going to go trademark things myself. I'm going to go do a tutorial. You know, we do have it in our superhero legal program. Most people don't do that. They want to go and get the help from ourselves. So it really depends. Like, you can do a lot of DIY. You can get help with stuff, and you can bring down your cost, quote unquote. But, you know, you're going to be doing a lot of stuff yourself in that case. So yeah, I would say that what I just gave you is about right. Again, you know, if we're going to go out there in London, you're in London, Pete, you told me, right? You're in London.
I'm up in Shropshire. Used to be in London.
You used to be in London. Last time we talked, you were in London. Yeah. I could have sworn. So I'm in Wexford, little town in Ireland, right? And even in Wexford here, like, to start a cafe right now, which would obviously be difficult with where we are right now, although it's getting better in the UK, it would be like 80,000 euros, say 70,000, 60,000 pounds to 100,000, or maybe more, depending on the size of the cafe. But of course, when people want to start an online business, people always want to go with the least amount of money. Now, I'm not saying you need 100 grand. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, like, you know, you should be prepared to invest a few £1,000s into starting a company, and also understanding then, as you start to make sales, you're going to see profits coming back, and then you're going to be able to utilize a lot of those profits, keep rolling it back into the business and grow it. And if you take this seriously, you know, over an 18-month period of time, you can be in a really, really amazing position depending on what you invest.
Yeah. And I think it is important to understand that, you know, if you're looking at this, you should treat it as a business potentially.
100%.
I mean, you may want to sign it as a little side hustle to begin, but what's the objective moving forward? It's like I always say, when you're investing, what's the goal when you're investing? You're going to need capital to invest in the first place and money to put into it. The same thing should apply with this as well. There's a really good question here from Money, Whiskey and Coffee. Is it possible to sell 3D printed products on Amazon?
Yeah, we don't do it actually. And I think the trouble with 3D printing in general now is that there are two problems. So the first would be that if it was 3D printed, you wouldn't be able to use FBA. So fulfillment by Amazon just means you send your stock into Amazon's warehouses, they store it there, and then they fulfill it from there. So it's 3D printed, obviously. If you print them in bulk, it could be very possible. We don't do it just yet. We are looking at it though. I think the second thing is that you know, the adoption of 3D printing, it's still quite expensive to 3D print things. I would think you would still manufacture things for less right now in the likes of China. But in time, there is going to come a day, everybody, where you don't need suppliers. You just do 3D printing and it's done. And who knows, maybe Amazon are just 3D printing everything at that point. But I don't think we're anywhere close to that in terms of our development just yet.
Perfect. Okay, cool. There is a question here. It's a two-part. This is from Anna here. I'm just going to get up the second part. What you teach sounds like is your start online arbitrage, or with just additional edge of personalizing it. If not, what's the major difference?
Yeah, no, a good question. So it's nothing like arbitrage. So just to clarify, there's two types of arbitrage: retail arbitrage and online arbitrage. So retail arbitrage would be you go to a shop and you can find a whole bunch of products there that you can scan. You see them for sale on Amazon. You're able to buy them for a certain amount of money. You can sell them on Amazon for a lot more. And then you're basically saying to yourself, well, I'm going to buy these here in bulk because I see I can. I'm going to sell them on Amazon, but you may never get those again. You found them in a shop or whatever. That's like retail arbitrage. Online arbitrage would be more the same thing. You just found a website that was selling a job lot of something. You could buy it. You saw you could sell it for more on Amazon. They're for pre-existing products. So like you could buy Philips light bulbs or whatever. Let's just say, right? There's some issues with that. You know, like things like, can you resell those? You have resell rights. You know, if they're secondhand, it's okay. So if they're brand new, you're starting to move into a wholesale model. So there are 3 different models there for people who don't do private label. And wholesale is kind of what it says in the tin. You find a wholesaler, they sell lots of different products. You buy them from them, and then you sell them on Amazon, basically, at the same pre-existing brands. So with us, nothing like that. We're doing our research on Amazon, and we're manufacturing a number of products with a supplier, and we're putting our own brand on those products, and we're selling them on Amazon. And one of the keys is we want to find something that's cosmetically different as well. I just answer a food dweller real quick because I see they have one thing. So I did give the price range on the course. It was $97 by 12, just so you know. I answered that earlier on. And then you're saying, one guy says his manufacturer realized he's making money on Amazon, so stop supplying him. Look, our members right now, we have over 2,000 different products that we sell, that we and our members sell. And I have never come across that situation. You're going to hear loads of different stories because there's millions of different products. But I can honestly tell you, hand on heart, I deal with thousands of people. I've not seen that before. I'm sure it happens, but in our case, we've never come across that.
Perfect. And you've answered this one as well about the percentage of profit on
I'll just clarify that as well. We look for 30% of the sales price. So that's called the POR, or profit on return. It's the same as, so your return on investment, and you've got profit on investment or return on investment, and then you've got your profit on return. To be clear, because this is the financial channel, you guys are good on the old finances. Profit on investment obviously just means the growth of your initial capital. What have you grown it by? So we want to see 100% growth in our money. So we've doubled our money after we paid all expenses when we're selling a product. Now, let's say that was $4 or £4 or whatever. Well, we can express that as a percentage of the sales price, the same profit, and we want to see that that's 30% of the sales price. It's the exact same amount of money. It's just expressed differently. One expressed on growth of your initial capital. One is to try and figure out quickly on the sales price, how much am I putting in my pocket or in my hand or whatever. So 30% is where we like to be. In some cases, it could be 25%. Some cases, it can be as much as 40% of the sales price. But that does depend on a number of factors: size of the product, weight of the product, cost price of the product, and things of that nature. But usually it's 30% is what we're looking for. But the key number is more that profit on investment or return on investment. It's the same thing. I would say 100% is what we look for, because at the end of the day, it's going to take 3 months to get that product into stock from China. So we need to be doubling our money for that to make sense. And also, a further point on that would be, that we're putting our own brand on this thing. So we want to be making enough, I suppose, return for the quote unquote risk that we're putting in, even though we're mitigating risk at every single stage of this process through our research process.
Fantastic. Cool. There is one here from Shadow Knight. I was going to ask about letting Amazon handle the shipping rather than doing it myself. But then you mentioned you cover this. Regardless, would you say Amazon handling this is still viable?
Yeah. So, okay, going to be a little bit of a longer answer here, but I'm going to give you the full answer. So the answer is absolutely, I want Amazon to fulfill my products from their warehouse to the end customer. But there's a but. The but is that Amazon made a change about a year ago which is another key reason why people work with us. They brought in this thing called IPI, which is the Inventory Performance Index. Now, what really boring name. All that basically means is Amazon don't want you or me sending in thousands of units of an unknown product. People were doing this for years, right? Probably comes back to the first question we had, 5 years ago. You could do that type of thing. But Amazon are not a fulfillment house. They're a fulfillment house, they're not a warehouse. And we've said this for years. We saw it coming. So that's why we invested literally millions into building our own freight company for our members and ourselves, so that we could avoid this issue. And so we avoid it because people store their products with us. We send a quantity of products into Amazon's warehouse, 50 units, 25 units, whatever it is. So they start selling on Amazon, they start replenishing from our warehouse in bulk into Amazon, and then Amazon send it out to the customer. The reason you want to use Amazon there is because it's completely automated in that case. Once it hits Amazon's warehouse, you don't have to do anything. And I mean, you don't have to do anything. They do the customer support relating to the delivery of the product. They'll answer all those questions. They'll ship the product out. They'll deal with returns, everything. You don't have to do any of that. Whereas if you're what's called merchant fulfilled, which is what you're mentioning, if you're going to do it yourself, you really don't get any of those benefits. I can tell you now, I've done it for many years in the past. Dealing with support on that is such a pain, especially if you're selling smaller items. And the reason is this: if you're in the UK, for example, and you're using the Royal Mail, which I did for many years up in Northern Ireland, the problem there is that when it's a small item, you're not going to be able to ship enough volume to get your stuff tracked, because it wouldn't make financial sense. Whereas with Amazon, everything's tracked. So if you don't have that, you literally won't be able to tell people where their product is. So yes, you will use Amazon, and there's the asterisk, which is you will need a warehouse of some kind to fulfill in bulk from there. And that's why we're in multiple countries, so people can sell in multiple countries with us and make it really simple for them.
Fantastic. That does make sense, actually, to be fair. Because, yeah, I mean, you don't want to be spending a lot of time on customer service and stuff. It's just, that can be all-consuming. That can be all-consuming, really.
It's a full-time job right there, especially multiple languages. What are you going to do then?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great one here from Gary. To test the market, is it advisable to make a small order of 100 units, no branding, and see how it goes?
Yeah, Gary, it's a great question. People try to do all these kinds of things, use AliExpress, stuff like that, and try to, mitigate the risk in that way. With ourselves, we look for a 60% of minimum order quantity. That's what we negotiate. So let's say a supplier says, well, you got to order 500 units of this thing. We want to do 60% of that. So we're looking at 300 units would be our negotiation that we would do there, okay? That's number one. So buying 100 units, the thing about this is, and I understand when you're starting out, you don't know these things. I didn't either. But it's it's hard to say, because it depends. What would the cost price be of 100 units? You know what I mean? If it was $10 a unit, $20 a unit, that's very different to if it was 50 cents a unit, right? So that's sort of the thing. When you get into this, you'll start to see when you're speaking to suppliers, there's all these kind of variables at play: size, weight, cost price, like I just mentioned. But I would just say nowadays, this idea of sending something in with no branding and stuff like that, those days, in my opinion, are over. And I think it's a great thing that they're over, because who wants to get this unbranded thing in the mail? It's in a white box. It looks horrible. No one wants that anymore. It's professionalized nowadays. So that's the change. So it's always going to be a test order after a lot of research, and that's the key. It's like investing in stocks or investing in a fund or anything like that. You do your research before you put money into something. If you're going into cryptos lately, which has been quite a ride for a lot of people, I'm sure you've seen videos on that too. It's a real ride, but again, the long term of crypto, I think, is interesting. But anyway, that's for another day.
Cool. That actually, because I know there's a guy that took some coaching with me a couple of times, and he's already in your program, and he goes, "You got the gauntlet." He talked a lot about the gauntlet. He was like, "Oh my god, this thing is freaking amazing." It's down to what you were saying. Down to what you're saying in terms of the research. It's making sure that you're thoroughly researched before you go and allocate cash to it.
And we've made it even better now, just for that person, if they're listening. We brought in, I'm sure they'll know, we actually upgraded all of our software. We built something called the Roots scoring system, which basically just means you take a product, and we've all these criteria now in our software, and you're able to score things as you're seeing it, and then it'll give you a score out of 100. And then if it's above a 60, it's good to go. Go talk to suppliers. If it's beneath that, go again. And we didn't have that even a few months ago. So we're constantly building tools like that to help with that part of the process. Yeah.
Good. There's a couple of questions here from Shadow Knight again. It's a two-part thing. So let me just get the first one up. It goes, a product I researched are using recognized IP in the design, images of famous characters. Would these items be pulled by the IP holder?
Yeah, so product research or recognize IP in the design. Yeah, okay. So that's problematic right there. That is just something that you're going to need to get a license in order to do that type of thing. We do not sell anything like that. You know, people want to do a bento box with Disney characters on it. No way. It's just too complicated. You're too small. You're not going to be able to make it work. And if you're looking at those types of products, you're looking in the wrong place anyway, would be my opinion. So we don't do any of that stuff. We're selling very simple things, like I mentioned, you know. And also, Food Dweller, I think you might really want me to be telling you something different. I was saying it's dollars we deal in, $97 by 12. I'm happy to tell you. So anyway, so coming back around, yeah, I wouldn't do that, Shadow Knight, at all. I would keep away from that. And also, just for anybody else listening, you're going to want to be checking USPTO in the US and things like that as you're doing your research. We do a research in the US because it's the biggest market. In order to check on patents, whatever way you want to pronounce that, it's important you type in the generic quality of the product, like is it a seed box or whatever it is, and try to find, do people have protections, design patents, things of that nature. We put a whole thing called Superhero Legal together with our attorney in the US, Robert Wright, in order to really educate people on this, because we don't want you bringing in something that's patented or patented, because you're going to run into trouble. And also, we ran into trouble years ago. You know, we actually used the keyword Velcro in one of our titles, and you can't do that. And Velcro told us you can't do that, which is very annoying. But again, I didn't even think about that. You know, so there's things like that you learn as you go along, and it's all part of the learning.
Cool. There's a follow-up to that one, which was another product was weighing between 5 to 10 kg per unit. Would you advise against your first product not having such mass, or would this not have too much impact on shipping?
Really depends, you know, like depends on the cost price, depends on how much you're going to sell the item for as well. That's something. If you're going to be selling a product that's very heavy, that's a very heavy item, we have this thing called the sandbox inside our profit calculator tool. And basically you can put in the dimension, you can put in the weights, you can put in the cost price, you can put in all those different elements, and it'll give you a really detailed breakdown of exactly what your profit's going to be. If you're air freighting something, if you're sea freighting it with a freight forwarder, if you're sea freighting it with Superhero Freight with ourselves, it'll literally break all that down for you to the cent. And that's really important, because Amazon have a profitability calculator, and unfortunately it's not very good because it doesn't allow for importing costs, which is a very fundamental thing to include. Doesn't allow for duties. It doesn't allow for anything like that. And that's a problem. Like, again, a lot of these YouTubers are recommending these tools and they don't actually calculate everything. So that's why we have our sandbox. It's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, when people join our program, we give them all those tools included for life. We don't charge for the tools. They're totally free. Well, not free. They're included in the investment in the program, basically. But if it's not us, you could build a spreadsheet, but you'd have to put in all of those variables that I mentioned. The thing I will tell you also is, you know, if it's not what you're saying, Shadow Knight, it's the other way. People will say, we'll only sell small and light items. But again, that's not good advice either, because at the end of the day, depends on the market of a product. It depends on so many factors. But also, why cut yourself off to selling heavier items? It's usually down to the fact that two things. Number one, they don't have their logistics down. And the second thing is usually down to the fact that they don't have their calculations in place, so they don't actually know how much money they're making. We give you that power.
Perfect. Cool. There's a question here from Andy. Andy's asking, evening lads, I've set up a limited company and have been researching into products using helium-10. Wondering if you have any Excel sheets to evaluate products potential or any equivalent.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned there, Andy. That's our Roots Research scoring system. It's way too complicated to put into a spreadsheet, unfortunately. We tried spreadsheets years ago for stuff like this, and what you'll find is that spreadsheets can't do what's called a circular reference, which is really boring tech stuff. But you need that if you're going to be able to do certain calculations when you're researching. So that's why we put everything into software nowadays. Helium-10, I have no real comment on them. They're a tool. We don't utilize Helium-10. I know the guys. They're good guys. Their methods of researching are very different to ours. So, you know, I'm not going to say they're wrong or poor or bad or anything like that. They're just different. And that's the really kind of cool thing about Amazon. Like, you can do it in many different ways and be very successful. I can only show people the way we've been successful and the way Hundreds of our members have been successful. That's all I can do. So that's all I can really advise on. But yeah, spreadsheets, like when you're starting out, maybe, but you really need something. You need to commit to a research philosophy and methodology first, and then utilize the tools that are required in order to get the results with that. So if it's what the guys are doing in Helium 10, great. If it's what we're doing, great. But I would say you need to look at one or the other. I wouldn't try and Frankenstein systems together. It's a bad idea.
Perfect. Thank you. Right. There is a question here. I don't know whether I missed this already. If I did, forgive me. Apologies for Jola. I didn't get the point on the price of the course. At least tell us the range, how much it will cost minimum. Yeah,
so I answered Food Dweller a couple of times there. I think we had a little bit of confusion. I think they didn't hear my answer. So I was saying the Marketplace Superheroes Ignite program, we charge in dollars. We're a global company. We've got clients all over the world, UK, massive amount, but also US, about 60% of our audience are located there. So we charge in dollars, number one, because I know that was one of the other questions that you had there. So the second thing is it's $97 by 12 for the program, but you get everything I talked about, all the tools, everything else. So you don't have to make any other investment out of that. There's no hidden fees or anything like that nature. So yeah, so that's how much it is. I'm sure we'll get a link or whatever for Pete. And then we'll get it out to you guys if you're interested. If not, no problem. Go and check out our YouTube channel, get some content. Check out the video I put on Pete's channel before you do anything else, because that's very fundamental information that we put together just for you guys. And I think there's a link to that video for more information or whatever as well.
Perfect. There was another one here, but I think you've already mentioned that you've already addressed on that one as well.
I answered their questions, yeah.
There is another one here from Anna. When filing tax returns for Amazon with your rule of 5, would you have to do it every country you sell in, or do you just need to file in the UK? Good question, actually.
2 powerful words in English language. It depends. Very, very powerful. So with the rule of 5, just for anybody who's listening doesn't know what this lady is chatting about. Is it Anna's her actual name, or is it
Anna? Yeah.
Anna. Okay. So to Anna's question, basically the rule of 5 states you've got 5 products, you sell them in 5 Amazon markets at the same time, make 5 sales per product per country per day, average net profit of $5. Again, we work in dollars, global audience and all that. I know when you're in the UK, it's like, dollars, what? But it's just how it has to be. I deal in euro here in Ireland, so I know how you feel. So when you've got 5 by 5 by 5 by 5 over a 30-day period of time, it's $18,750, 15,000 pounds net profit before tax. But yes, Anna, when you ask that, so it depends, because number one, what corporate structure are you going to utilize? And this is where it starts to get a little bit sticky, but I'll answer your question because you've asked it. So if you're a UK company, by the way, you're in a really good position, simply because you can go to Amazon.com with a UK limited company and you can sell there relatively easily. You can use a tool like TaxJar to figure out the tax that you owe. Amazon and some certain accounts now as well are actually collecting the sales tax at source. So that makes it really easy. Obviously in the UK, you're in a different situation because you're a UK resident. You've got a UK company. You're selling in the UK. You actually do have typically, and again, speak to your accountant, but you typically would have what's called a VAT threshold in the UK, which basically just means it's a period of time, not time so much as money. You can trade up to a certain amount before you have to register for VAT, value-added tax. Mm-hmm. Now, we calculate all of the future tax you're going to pay, sales tax, in our calculations. So there's no surprises whenever you do eventually register for tax. So this is complicated because if you're a US company come to sell in the UK, there's a different process that we have to follow because you're a non-European entity. Now you're I don't even know what they're classified in the UK since the latest change. We have to look into that. But typically those people start up a UK limited company and they trade in the UK and typically in Europe as well with that UK entity because they're from non-Europe, and that's where it gets a bit complicated. So I think you're in the UK because you're asking.
She's in the UK, yeah. So she's in the UK.
What you'll do is you'll set up a UK limited company. You'll trade with that. You'll then start. So then, if you're wanting to sell in mainland Europe now because of Brexit, you're going to actually get a German VAT number over time. You may not do it straight away, and that's going to enable you to send some stock to Germany, and you can literally sell to everybody in Europe. Then just translate your listings. That opens up Europe for you, and you've got the UK going as well. We help with a lot of those processes also, so that gets you Europe sorted. And the US, you can just use your UK limited company, and you can trade over there, and it's relatively simple. We have the contacts and stuff for you to get set up there. So when you're in the UK, you're actually in a really good spot because it simplifies a lot of these countries. Pretty big. So it's good.
Perfect. There is a follow-up for her on this one as well.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, once I find the product, you ship it. Your company will supply this to the Amazon warehouse. My main job is to find the product.
Yeah, a brilliant question. So I'll explain that as quick as I can. It's very simple. So if you didn't utilize us, let's just start there, because I think it's like important to talk about that. So you went out there, you're learning about this stuff yourself, and you're like, I'm going to ship something from China to the UK, for example. Well, you would have to go and find a freight forwarder. Then you'd have to speak to them. You'd have to get their rates and all of that. You'd have to connect them with the supplier. You'd have to get the contacts going between the two of them. As a whole rigmarole. And I can tell you, we've done it for years. This is one of the big things we wanted to build, because we're like, how do we make this easier? This is just too hard. Teaching it was a nightmare. I mean, the amount of steps you had to teach was just crazy. So we were like, if we could just do it for people, it'd be great. So that's what Superhero Freight. Basically, when you join that, typically it's like a $40, $47 a month or something like that for freight specifically. But sometimes, depending on when you join, we give you a couple of months free. It depends on when you joined and whatever. But we can put something together for you guys on that. I can do something for you because Pete is a good buddy now. We're getting to know each other well. But basically, let's just say you're in the Superhero Freight network at that point in time. Well, what happens is you use our online system. You're like, I'm ordering this product. Here's all the supplier information. Here's everything about the product. We then go and speak to the supplier on your behalf. All right. Now, the good news is, because we're speaking to them, we know your product. We have agreements together that we're not going to go and sell those products or anything like that. So you can feel very comfortable that we're not going to go ahead and do that. It's not in our interest to do that anyway, because we'd much rather be shipping your stuff than have to go around selling all this stuff. Obviously we still do that, but it's even better if we can have you ship it while we're doing that, and you build a business and we build a business. So it's a really nice symbiotic relationship, right? So we speak to the supplier. We do absolutely everything. We arrange to get it to the port in China. We get it onto the ship. We bring it into the different country or countries, depending on how many units you want to send to each different place. If you were just sending to the UK, that's absolutely fine. It will come into our Northern Irish warehouse, and we would hold it in stock there. You would then create what's called an inward order inside your Amazon account. And then we just basically put the labels on your box, and then Amazon's carriers come and collect it. We also can ship it into Amazon for you as well. So we do so much in that area that honestly no other course does that. And they're just courses. And I think courses are great. I'm a big fan. But in this business specifically, you really do need a partner to make your life easier, or you're going to be running around trying to figure out all these different connection points, which honestly is overwhelming. So just to really confirm what you said, you'll place the order, we'll speak to the supplier, we'll arrange all that, we'll bring it in, you'll pay the duties and taxes as it comes in, we'll tell you what to do there, and then you'll set up your little order into Amazon, and we'll help you get that in there. Real simple. And then whenever you want to send in more, you do it inside our system, you replenish the product, and it just keeps rolling. As I mentioned, we're going to ship 8 million different units this year, single units this year, from China into our different warehouses. So it's very well tested, massive amount of case studies. You can go to superherofreight.com, and there's loads of case studies from our members. It's brilliant. And I genuinely mean it's brilliant. And I appreciate that, Anna. Thank you very much. You've got a brilliant business model, she said.
Yeah, I was just seeing that as well. Right, I'm just going to answer this from Food Dweller. Right, guys, we're giving you numbers. Right, we don't know the exchange rate off the top of our head, so maybe that's a little bit of research for you guys to go and do. But just to make it really, really clear, it is 97 times 12, which is, what's that?
It's going to be like 70 odd pounds a month or something, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's $1,164, right? If you put that into pounds, it's about 842 pounds for the year. Okay, that's the kind of stuff that you can do on your own research, on your own, in a bit of initiative here, guys. I know it's a simple question, but still. I'll
tell you something funny about that, though, because it's actually kind of funny that in our world, Pete, we have people who say to us, do you want to know something, guys? I really wanted to join your course, but I actually live in Canada. So if I buy this in Canada, it's like 1,200 Canadian dollars. That's too expensive. Like, I wanted to buy it for $1,000 US dollars. And we're like, no. That is 1,200 Canadian dollars.
Yeah.
Exchange rates actually really mess with people's brains. I see it all the time. So I get why you guys might have questions about that, but yeah, like they really mess with people's heads. I see it all the time.
Yeah. There's a question here. So on where exactly would you say is the first place to start, YouTube channel or your website? There's a lot of stuff on your YouTube channel. I mean, I checked out your YouTube channel extensively, and the videos you do on there around product research are just really detailed and amazing.
Yeah, we do a lot on there. Again, I really want to push the fact that we made a video on Pete's channel as well that I'm really proud of, and I would definitely point you there and have a look at that. Support Pete's channel, give it a like as well, give it a comment. You know what to do. And then from our channel, yeah, definitely come over, watch it, and there's always links. There's another thing I can tell you as well. You go to marketplacesuperheroes.com/gift. That's another link as well as an alternative. But again, I think there's a link underneath Pete's video. If you want to support his channel, the best thing to do is, you know, go through there, check it out. And if you buy anything from us, we'll obviously share some of that with Pete as well to support his channel. So just to be clear with that, that's something you can absolutely do.
Perfect. There is one here as well from Fujiwara, which is, I think we've kind of almost covered it, but just to finalize those little points. If I take the course and find the products I want to sell, do you help with the research for the manufacturers and negotiate the price on Alibaba, and also help with the shipment to Amazon warehouse, which is, you cover the entire thing, don't you?
Yeah, the only thing we don't do there is we don't negotiate with supplier on your behalf. That's the only part you will do. We take over when you're ordering the product. And then you say, I've placed my order, guys. Now I want to bring you in straight away. And that's a huge tip as well. We do not recommend waiting to bring in our freight company, because we work on this model where with all of our members are utilizing the same service. The idea is they let us know early on when the product is just getting manufactured, just beginning manufacture. So we know we've got like 30 days. That's usually the manufacture time. We have 30 days to get that order arranged, sorted, and onto the boat. So the earlier you let us know, the better. If you work with a traditional freight forwarder, you can give them a lot less notice, but they're going to charge you a hell of a lot more money. Like you're talking treble, even quadruple the price that we would charge to ship something. Honestly, I mean, I mean it. Like, and also shipping rates. You guys may or may not know this, but just to say, shipping rates, and I mean literally trebled within about 2 days, like about a month and a half ago. They just trebled, like, because there was a container shortage because of COVID and all the different things have been shipped, you know. So I just wanted to also say, people pre-bought freight with us, like a cell phone, right, or a mobile phone. So we let them buy ahead of time. They held that in their account. We still honored that, even though we were actually losing money on all of those shipments, just to make that. And not looking for, like, you know, a pat in the back or anything. I'm just saying we really do honor pre-buying things and stuff like that, because hey, look, we didn't, not to say we got that wrong, but it was just, you know, something changed really quickly, and it's fine because the rates are coming back down now. But we did actually increase our freight rates in line with that. We had to, but still we're way less expensive than anybody else. But it's not so much the less expense. The bigger thing for all of you listening is like trusting someone to go and do this stuff. You don't have to go and learn it all, because I've done it for years and there's a lot in it. Yeah. There you go. Hope that answers that.
Perfect. There is one from Anna here as well.
Yeah,
apart
great.
from the course, on average, using your marketplace superheroes, how much would I be looking to invest to start a solid business, a rough estimate?
Yeah. So the thing about this will be, you'll always start small and scale up from there. You know, now we've had people who've come in and they're a little bit more experienced in business. You know, they're like this guy, Steve Garrett from the States, you know, I mean, loads now at this point, but Steve is the dentist in America, very successful one. And he was able to come in and invest 50,000 into his business, you know, and it just took off like a rocket because he had a lot of money in there. A lot of people don't have that amount of money to start off. But I would say, as mentioned, I have a video about this on my channel, but overall, you're talking about to launch a product anywhere from, let's see, pounds, 600 pounds, like £2,000 Overall, we're talking about 3,000 to 5,000 pounds all in. But that wouldn't happen like day one. You wouldn't just be like, there's 3,000 pounds, launch my business. It all happens over a period of time. But also the thing that no one's allowing for is, well, when my stuff gets into stock, I'm starting to get some money back now because I'm making sales and my business is growing. And that's the thing that we honestly have to really educate people about for so long. We have to be like, pull the trigger, trust us, you know. And then when they get over the hump of that and they've invested, they actually see the other side then. So yeah, that's there the kind of cost I'm talking about there. I believe I gave you pounds and dollars there.
Perfect. Cool. And there's this one as well. So how about pictures and videos to upload on Amazon? Do you help with that?
Yeah, so we actually do take the images for you if you want us to. Obviously, we charge something extra for that. It's very minor. We charge less than $5 or Upwork, places like that. We do an amazing job. The videos now, so you would have to be brand registered in order to be able to put videos and what's called A+ brand content on there. which is just better quality stuff, nicer images, nicer listings. And I mentioned earlier on, I recommend being brand registered 100%. So when you're brand registered, you can put in videos and things like that. If you're not brand registered, you're not able to do that. So that kind of answers that. We don't really do videos though ourselves. We do 360 photography. We do a full 360 shot of your product. Videos, stuff like that, not really. We'll probably add to it in the future, but with the products we sell, it's like one of our members sells, the things that cover the feet of washing machine to stop them scratching the floor. I don't think we could make a very interesting video about that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I appreciate that. Cheers for that. And thanks, Snuggles, for the super chat there. I have a question for you then, because with the research, you talk a lot about the research, and obviously with the Gauntlet, you get that score and then you're good to go. Do you ever have, or have you ever had any of the students where they've gone through the research, but they still find that the product doesn't then sell? How do you navigate that kind of thing?
Yeah, like again, we actually we ship 2,000 different products with Superhero Freight, and we do have an area. With all these different areas, but the amber zone and the red zone in our warehouses. So the red zone is usually someone who's kind of like not going to sell our product, or they're kind of giving up on it, whatever. And that's a tiny portion. I don't even know the percentage. I'll have to find out for of the overall. Very, very small. Not to say everybody's just successful and it all, whatever. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is that when you put into research, and I know I'm saying that word again, but again, there's a lot to the process. I can't do it justice in 2 minutes or whatever. But when you do that work and you follow the different rules that we set out and criteria we set out, I see very few people, quote unquote, failing when they do all the work. Where I see people not getting a product correct is whenever they just don't follow the process fully. They've not learned the process fully yet, so they might get it slightly wrong. But I would say, I'd have to get the exact numbers, but I would say 80% of the products that our clients sell are successful. And successful means they would sell out in a 9 to 12 month period of time. So you're talking, well, actually, no, I would say more like 90%. I'm gonna go and get those numbers though, but I would say 85, 90% is the range we're talking about there. And the people therefore who, let's say they don't have successful products, very small amount of people just like give up on it and it has to be thrown in the bin or something. Most people, they drop the price, they sell out at cost, and they're out. So we don't have very many people who are just totally failed, got it totally wrong, and it's just totally thrown out. It's a tiny percentage, really is.
And I know that you kind of labor on the fact of you're not just selling one thing. You're trying to sell different items as well. So it's not like you've just got this one thing that doesn't sell. You're looking at different items and stuff.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And also we have little things in our ecosystem called like validations, where you can pay a little bit of money. It's like $95, so £70 or whatever it is. And then our team will look at that product for you, and we'll send you a video back. We'll send you a written kind of like, I suppose, summary of what we think about that product as well. And so that really helps people. I know some people might be sitting here going, yeah, but I've already bought the product. Why are you charging for those things? We have to, we literally have 80 people now on our team. So we just can't give away stuff like that. We can't do it, with too many people on the team at this point in time. So, but for the amount of money you're putting in, the benefit is absolutely humongous, because we've seen people where we said, don't do that product, don't do it. That's not going to do well for you. Get out of that. Equally, then we people say, yeah, go and get it done, make it happen. And then, we had a guy on, Nadeem, and another guy called Alan, 2 coaching clients of ours, and they both came on, they got stuff validated, and they're minority, these guys, where they basically were just like, Nadeem has a product that's doing almost $500,000 a year revenue on Amazon. One product. Is crazy. I've never done that before myself, and he has, so fair play. Most of our products did about $250,000 was probably the best, 300,000 maybe. Alan's other student, 300,000 his product was set to do. And here's the thing that I want to point out. It might sound amazing to get product to that level quickly when you're starting out. It's actually a curse. It's a real curse, because those guys didn't have the capital to keep up with the sheer demand for the product, because you had a certain amount, it sold out so quickly. You're then forecasting ahead for the future, and you're seeing Alan, for example, I think he has to do a $60,000, so £45,000 order for his product to keep it in stock. We're going to help them with that. And obviously we'll get some of the profitability of that as well. And that's stuff like that we have to do at times when it just goes off like a too big of a rocket. So I think it's like, be careful what you wish for. What you really want in Amazon is start small and safely, like I'm talking about, get some experience, just like you would investing money, and go from there. Like even myself, I've been into cryptos. I've been learning about them. I didn't go in and put 100 grand into cryptos. Like I actually took my time and I've built it up now, and I'm heading on to do that now. I'm putting a lot of our different companies' assets into crypto now because we get it, we understand it, we see where it's going. Again, that's not investment advice. It's just something that, you know, we're doing. And yeah, like you have to start small, and then you scale from there when you get confidence, you understand how things work.
Perfect. That's great. Cheers for that. There is one from Shadownut here. I wasn't familiar with Alibaba. In your experience, how negotiable are sellers' initial rates? Yeah,
like they're very negotiable. A lot of suppliers, they really are. The mistake a lot of people make with Alibaba is, you know, they go on there and it'll say, this is the price, this is the minimum order. Don't look at any of that. It's nonsense. It's not useful information. You have to contact the supplier and speak to them and get the information directly from the supplier. You do that in a number of ways. I have loads of videos on that type of stuff. You can chat, send them an email and whatnot. But the key there with suppliers is going to be the minimum order negotiation I talked about, 60%. That's always what we're looking for. And there's lots of different room for negotiation. Like, for example, a supplier might say, well, you might say, well, I want to do 300, or I want to do less than your minimum order. They'll say, well, we don't want you to do that. You'll say, well, I tell you what, I'll pay you more per unit if we can do less, because obviously that will be better because you're still testing at a smaller, safer level. So there's all these things you can do, and we teach all these negotiation things in the program. It would take me a while to go through them all. But yes, negotiating, suppliers are very open to that. They're open to do business. And you'll find when you talk about having a long-term relationship, this is what Chinese companies like. It's actually a part of culture. It's called guanxi, which basically is all about, you know, respect for one another, long-term relationships. And when you understand that and you speak in that way, they're very open and they're happy to. They're champions of the underdog. A lot of these suppliers are. They want to help you. You know.
Perfect. Right, there's a couple more because I'm conscious of your time. So just
Pete, this has been great. There's some great questions, I have to say. Really good.
Cool. This is a question from Adam. Do your users end up competing against each other with the same same products? And the follow-up was, if you do the same research fitting your criteria.
Yeah, it's a great question, Adam. Rarely, but it does happen from time to time. But also it doesn't matter because each person is making a different offer. You know, different, it looks different, different kind of like bonuses with the product, pack sizes, things like that. But also a lot of these markets, there's a lot of room in them. Like I said, there's never going to come a time when like you've got one product in a market selling. You're always going to be sharing the market with other people. But from time to time, yes. I would also say though, with other strategies other than ours, it's a lot more common because they're all using these research tools that are literally only showing this tiny bit of criteria. With ourselves, we've got this process called segue searching, which basically just means you look at a product, you go down, look at the related products, and that you segue off into those. You run them through the competitive analysis. You segue off of those. So you're going down and down and down and down and down. On Amazon, most other people, they're looking at some tool, they're assessing like how much it brings in per month. And I do that because Amazon doesn't actually release that that information to the public. So it's pure anecdotal data. It's not actually real data. And then they try to make a decision from there. And that's where you end up with the very full circle, or for the first question, you end up with, 5 years ago, I could sell this, I can't sell it anymore. That is the answer to that. So great question. There's we have 2,000 different products in our warehouses. Some people selling the same stuff, but it's like, I would say it's single percentages,
Perfect.
Honestly.
That's great. Thank you. And cheers, Hannah, again for that super chat. Really do appreciate it. And thanks for that compliment earlier about the podcast and everything as well. Thank you. There is this one. If my product is not selling on Amazon, what should I do to save me Amazon warehouse charges?
I don't really know what you mean on that, though. If it's not selling an I think you mean, if it just isn't going to sell. And I always love this as well, because people always want to talk about the worst. There's very few people say to us, Pete, what am I going to do when I'm bringing in so much money in my business? Like, how am I going to invest that more effectively? Everyone wants to go with the worst case scenario, right? And it's very common thinking, especially over here in the UK and Ireland. We all are thinking about the worst thing that's going to happen. I'm going to tell you something, though. When you do the work, you put in the effort, and you make good decisions, good choices, you're not going to have to worry about that. Now, can I guarantee, you're definitely going to be successful? Of course not. I don't know what you're going to sell, but I'm just telling you, you mitigate your risk. This is not going to be much of an issue. But I will answer your question, because it's a question nonetheless. What do you do in that case? If you want to save warehouse charges, you don't store it in Amazon's warehouse. And it would sound to me, if you're talking about what you're saying there, you're basically saying, I cannot sell this product. It's not going to sell anywhere. At that point, you're going to have to destroy it. I can say right now, we have destroyed a grand total of 0 products in Superhero Freight so far. 0.
Wow.
And that's because people usually, if it's not the right thing, it's not going to do what they want it to do. They drop the price and just get it out low cost. Just get it out and get what they can back out. Put it on eBay, do whatever you have to do. But again, that's not like 70% of our products are like that. As I mentioned earlier, it's like maybe 10% or less are in that situation. It's very, very minor, like very minor.
Perfect. Thank you. Right. This will be the last one. Thank you guys for the great work. I've saved up I have saved up to £5,000. I'm ready to invest, but I can't think of a product. Can you help with product selection?
Well, not right now in this 2 minutes that I have left, unfortunately, right? But I would say go and check out my YouTube channel. That'll get you started. The material we have in the Ignite program is second to none. My business partner, Robert, he delivers all of that. He's absolutely phenomenal. I would just recommend that to you. Let me make one more comment, though, just in general comment for everybody. And this is something I didn't know many years ago. I was like a lot of you guys starting out, not very experienced. And it goes for investing too in some cases. It's like, you have to understand, when you start getting into business, you start getting into creating a corporate structure, like a simple company, like a limited company in the UK, for example. And that £5,000 you're talking about, right? That's going to be money you're going to put into that company as an additional initial seed capital. And from there, then you're going to be utilizing that to bring in your first products, pay things, all of that. And that's all going to be expenses in your business. So essentially, you're going to have costs that are coming in there to establish your new company. All of these things come off the profitability and everything. So you're not going to pay very much tax. But the key to your life as you progress is going to be that £5,000 that came to you through work. So you've actually paid tax on that already, and you're investing money that you've already paid tax on back in, which is what you have to do at the start. But as time goes on, one of my biggest things for all of you is, if you have a company, you can buy things with your company that are legitimate expenses, put them through your company, and that's where you start to get into the realms of tax efficiency. And that's something that when you're in a corporate job, you don't really have very much of that, because your employer likely pays a lot of your tax for you. You're just left with the net at the end. So again, I appreciate that question. I gave you the answer, but I would be like, go and just learn a model first. Don't just go and chuck one, because you won't need to put all that 5,000 into a product. Like, you just won't. And depending on the product, it could be £600. I mean, I don't know, because it depends on cost, price, size, all of that. But I really feel like for you especially, just pick even if it's not us, it doesn't matter. Just go down a pre-proven way, first of all. I tell my team this all the time. I see people trying to complicate matters for ourselves here, and I'm like, who's already done this before? Who can we go and just learn this from? And then we can innovate down the line. And I would say that to you as well.
Perfect. I think that's a really, really good point to kind of almost wrap up on. And tax efficiency is really important. That's when you could start buying cars and all this kind of stuff through businesses just to reduce your tax bill. This kind of stuff is great when you get to that point where you're at a stage in the business where that actually becomes relevant.
You're going to love this, Pete, by the way. You're going to like this, because I actually bought my car through my company earlier this year, and I did the mathematics on it. And even though I pay benefit and kind tax on that, my effective tax rate through my company is still less than me paying it personally. And things like that are a real mind F. I don't want to obviously swear here, but I would just say they're a mind F, because like, when you buy something with your money in your job, I told a guy this today and he nearly he just couldn't understand this. Like, I was like, you know, you bought a car for 50 grand. It didn't really cost you 50 grand. It cost you like 80 grand. And they're like, no, it costs 50. And I'm like, no. You had to get the 50 to buy it. So you had to pay tax to get it. It's probably more like 90. So it's like things like that we don't actually we don't realize. I didn't realize. Whereas then when you get into having a company, you're looking at it going, well, I would actually have paid 50, maybe 51% personally to buy that. So a car for 50 grand could have cost me 100 grand. Don't think about that. Through a company, I might pay 35%. So it's still going to be like 1,500 quid a month in like benefit and kind tax. Sore, but it's actually better than buying it personally. And things like that, guys, I never knew anything about. And that's why people like Pete here, educating on financial matters is so important. It's why I'm passionate about his channel, and he'll be on our channel talking about all of that and budgeting and everything else that he does so well very soon, because financial literacy is at an all-time low, I think, in the world, Pete. I don't know if you'd agree with that. Maybe I'm being a little bit negative, but I think so.
No. It is. And that's one of the things, you know, these little things, little nuggets, we don't, unfortunately, it's one of the situations where you don't come across the information unless you're within the circle to find it. Like I've got a friend at the moment, he's got a song out with Steve Aoki like this week.
Oh, yeah.
And he's gonna be raking it in. And we were already talking about, like, dude, you need to start planning this ahead of time. Like really making sure, like, if you might end up in a position where you need to go buy something expensive to reduce that corporation tax. So trying to structure things, but you need to be in circles to kind of come across that kind of information. Whereas the high level stuff should just be taught in school. Like, this is how a company works. This is how company structures work. This is how tax works, so on and so forth.
I think, but then teachers would be like, "What, really? How does that work? What are you talking about? What do you mean? It's going to cost me extra to pay?" Like, and that's it too. You know, it really is important. And you know, now at this point in my life, I'm at a situation where, you know, I even have a company for myself and my wife. You know, we have our own company, and then we get paid through this company into our own thing, and then we do things in here. And that's the thing. Like, I didn't realize the power that many years ago, and that's something I just wanted to stress here. When you have like a company, there's so many things you can do, you can't do as an individual. And even for me, like one of the ways I reduce my corporate tax on my taxation is I can put more money into my pension, for example, and that breaks down. Because it comes off your profitability. And it's like, okay, so hold on, I can pay it to the tax person, or I can have it for the future. I think I'll have it for the future. Thanks.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I'm looking to do actually myself, because I'm a limited company. I'm self-employed doing this full time now. So it's like, okay, so I've got to pay corporation tax at some point in June. So, you know, whilst the tax is there, okay, my pension contributions, I've kind of neglected that trying to build this up. So I'm looking at, okay, 100%. Do I have enough money to take from that to put into a pension for myself as well, and continue to do that?
There's other smart things you can do, Pete, as well, which I recommend to look into, and things I've been learning as well. It's like, you know, here in Ireland, the UK, and in England, slightly different tax rules. But again, I know we're geeking out a little, but it's cool to know these little things. It's like, you know, in Ireland here, I can create like an idea for something, like an asset, like a book or a program or whatever. And I can package that up as an asset, and I can sell that back to myself. I can sell it back to my company, and they'll buy that for me. Like, there's things like that you can do here in Ireland. And I don't know if you can do them in the UK, but you can do things like that in different countries. So there's all these little things that when you have good tax advisors in the future, guys, you can look into this. But even in the now, you know, watching Pete's channel, listening to what he's talking about, start getting yourself a little more educated. I'm actually been a little more I suppose, aware of what you're actually doing with your money on a day-to-day basis. That's really important. And that's why today's conversation, even talking about Amazon, we're talking about methods of actually growing your money rather than what we're all used to, which is spending our money. And they're two very different things, you know. So look, I hope you guys learned something today. I've definitely got some great questions, which I really appreciated. So it was awesome.
Cool. Guys, no, I appreciate your time, Stephen. Really, really do. And thank you for everyone who's tuned in, who's asked questions, stuff like that. I will pop a link in the chat, and I'll leave one in the comment section of this as well. So if you do want to go check out Stephen and his course, you can use that link there. I would definitely recommend you go check out the YouTube channel. There is so much stuff on there, and you can access all of that. You can binge out on some content, really get an idea of his philosophy when he demos a load of stuff. How many videos? You've got hundreds of videos on your channel now, haven't you?
It's nearly 300 now. Our channel should be a lot bigger for all the videos we make. But anyway, that's all good. I'm joking. Yeah, we have about, that's nearly 300 now. But we make 2 a week. We put a lot of effort into them. And yeah, I think it's a really great channel. I mean, if I do say so myself, we put a lot of effort into it. I think you guys can learn a lot. And we don't hold anything back there. We show you guys a lot of stuff. And then to get all the extra detail and the services and all that kind of stuff that you're going to need to go and do it, then yeah, you can jump across and jump into the program. But really, like, you need to know a base of, is this a business I want to do, before you jump in and start learning. I don't like when people come into a course and like, it's like, I'll buy this thing, and then they never do anything with it. We'd much rather have partners. That's our thing. We want long-term partners, which is why we spend the time educating, why you do it as well. Like, it's that we can actually build something bigger in the future. And that for me is having thousands of people doing this, being successful, and we're all sharing in the win, you know. And that to me is what I want, and it's happening, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Cheers, guys. Again, thank you for this evening. It is now 11:15. I appreciate the time. Stephen, we need to speak offline about the whole thing about packaging something.
Yeah.
I need to find out where we could do that in the UK. But I appreciate it. Cool. That's great. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephen. Have a good evening and a good week as well. Cheers.
Thanks.